Good evening and welcome to Edessa the Dark Crusade. Tonight we find, in the beginning of our scene, we find Madeline walking with a purpose to her step, but not so fast as to not enjoy the city for the terrible mess it is currently, and not enjoying a good walk and conversation with Torvald. The two are making their way to a place that is, I don't know if it's the official meeting place where you would talk with a primogen, but at least a place that is not directly within this primogen's domain, namely the Nosferatu. It is a building above ground. Madeline is of course, very aware that she has made her wish to see the primogen known and will follow all the etiquettes, of course. And she's bringing Torvald along because, well, she doesn't seem to go too much around without Torvald with her.
Torvald accompanies Madeline. Um, he's dressed all in black, as he's started to be since he's been in Madeline's company. The only sort of glint of colour about him is the silver beads in his beard and the silver hilt of the gladius type sword strapped at his waist as a precaution. Though he very much doubts that he will need it in the hands of the well-mannered Nosferatu.
So tell me, have you had much time in your service with the Nosferatu, or was this another group that your mistress avoided?
My mistress would not so much as entertain the idea of spending time with the Nosferatu. I, however, have done my dealings with them privately in the
Good,
city.
good, good to hear. She just kind of nods and smiles at that, and yeah, the two will approach.
What you two approach is a seemingly looks more like a small fortress that's been kind of carved out of the home that was there. You see plenty of men with blades kind of walking about. You know quite frankly that these are probably his servants, his retainers. Fairly obvious, as a lot of them have some of the, how should I describe it? They're human, they're mortal, but they kind of got the ugly of the Nosferatu kind of on the face.
Rashes.
Yes, rashes, boils. They look very unsavory. They don't look sickly. Like, you can tell that they can wield their weapons rather efficiently. It's just that they don't physically look very appealing. And as the two of you kind of come up, one of them, a particularly kind of nasty-looking fellow, who's got a rather large. It kind of looks like a. He kind of has it wrapped up with kind of a cloth, as if it's like kind of like an eye patch, but it kind of looks like an abscess over his eye. And he kind of goes, "Good evening. You are here to speak to my master, yes?"
Quite so.
"He is expecting you." please come inside. And he looks to Thorvald and he says, if you would be kindly to place your weapons upon the table inside the house, that would be greatly appreciated of him. Nothing shall happen to your weapons. I will assure you of this.
Thor nods. Of course.
And he opens up the door, and you can feel that it's a very heavy door, very heavy wood, and he kind of takes a little bit of almost all his strength in a way, at least mortal strength, to kind of push it open. And inside, you see various things. You see, vases. You see jade statues that look like they've come from the Orient, or China, as it was called the Orient in that time. And you see, pearls. You see various, bits and pieces of treasure, kind of laying about, as if it was almost like an altar, as if they were gifts to an altar, if you will. And you see this very large table, where you can kind of just plop your blades into them, as if it was kind of like a makeshift scabbard, or scabbard, if you will.
Thor slides out the short sword and slides it into the table.
Yes, it's I call it a table. Well, it looks like a table, but it kind of has like almost like a drawer kind of thing underneath it. And Thorvald, as you slide it in and everything, it's not a perfect fit, obviously, but it doesn't do anything to your blade or anything of that nature. It goes in fine. And so the gentleman tells you to follow him, and he moves.
Madeline will pull out from somewhere in her back, like it's fairly well hidden, but she will, like a dagger. She'll just give it.
And he will nod at this, and again he beckons you to follow him, and you go through a very large house. You don't hear any music or anything of that nature. At least not in like this particular part. Once you get closer to a smaller part of the house, you can certainly hear music being played. And after that, he says, when you enter into the room, please kneel yourselves and state your clan, your titles, and then sit upon these cushions. The master, and he also looks at Thorvald's shoes, and he says, the master would also wish for you to remove your shoes. He would not want his carpet to be sullied. And he again looks at Thorvald as if he's implying, you will dirty up his fucking carpets, so you better take off your fucking shoes.
Thor gives the ghoul, the retainer, a kind of it's one of those smiles that isn't really threatening, but it has kind of like a bared teeth appeal to it. It's like, but he'll comply.
Madeline just thanks the ghoul for dutiful service to his master.
And he He simply nods at that. And he simply goes, it is politeness of my master. That is why he does so. He does not do so to be rude to his guests, but it is considerate. He simply bows his head as he opens the door, and he bows his head rather deeply down and speaks in Arabic that his master's guests have arrived, and you go in.
And Madeline will go first, kneel deeply, and say, Madeleine, Ancilla of Clan Mesambra.
It takes Thorvald a moment because he has to. The boots that he wears are kind of like the ones you'd wear with armor.
All right, yeah, Madeline's more or
Military.
less just slip off, so she just.
So he has to like unlace them and everything. It's a pain in the ass, but he does so. And once Madeline has spoken, he'll come into the room and kneel and say, Thorvald, neonative clan Gangle.
As the two of you have knelt in front of him and have introduced yourselves, you can hear the music playing again. A very soft, it's kind of a very soft sitar, and sounds to be a flute. Yes, a flute. And if you were to look up, which I'm assuming you are, you will see the primogen of the Nosferatu dressed in his. I'll find the picture for you, hopefully. Dressed in his very attire. Well, you already know what it looks like, so it doesn't really matter. And he simply goes, so, Nas. So, what is the honor that you are to be within my presence? A gangrel and a shadow.
Well, first of all, I am very pleased that you would receive us. I am very pleased that you could lend us some of your valuable time. First of all, I would simply express gratitude for helping us with the situation. Our last night together was quite eventful, but enjoyable in a way. We got a major problem for the city solved.
Yes, this much is true. Now, your letter. What is it? What is it that you wish to speak of here?
Well, first of all, the Nosferatu I pried out from the rocks. That is still with us, I believe, due to this. How is she doing? Will I be able to speak with her at some point? I have not heard anything.
She has been working upon the full healing of her wounds. She can walk now, but yet it takes much time to get used to. Plus, It is very tedious to make sure the children will be strong.
I am hoping that she is not suffering from delusions anymore.
No, not any longer. She found it to be very enlightening for her.
Well, that is good to hear. I wish to speak with her at some point, but
Do not worry. She will arrange it for you.
good. Now I wish to. Well, I hope that this little work between us to a very mutually beneficial outcome can help us facilitate other mutually mm, mutually beneficial agreements. There are, as you know, I have been a resident of this city for quite some time. There are certain things that I have still not found out, that I very much wish to be mm, wiser upon. One of which is the inhabitants that was in this city at some point, that suddenly disappeared. I have scoured this city for many things. I have not found very much.
Hmm.
Certain things, however, might be hidden underground, a place I have never really been in. And do not worry, I do not mean to say that I would wish to violate your domain or gain entry. That is not what I mean. No, what I mean is, if your clan has any information about the longer histories of this place, things that are buried, I would wish to exchange them, perhaps for an arrangement of some other kind, something I could assist with. I do believe that we can help each other.
Hmm. Eh, perhaps we can. Yes. So, where do you wish to look for these missing people?
Well, these missing people are, I'm afraid, long dead. Most of the kindred were certainly gone within 3 nights or so. But do bear in mind that this is
You talk of the ones before.
quite so
Yes.
ancient history to some, but for us it is, well,
Hmm. That will be difficult to find, but I see no reason that we cannot sate your curiosity.
I do believe that there are very few who are as good at finding things in the dark and deep places of this, well, planet. None better than you or your clan.
And he thinks for a moment. If you want to do a perception alertness or anything of that nature, you certainly can.
Empathy, if it's, or maybe I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, like empathy. Uh, essentially to notice any kind of subtle kind of as if he's you're trying to discern if he's hiding something or not.
A primogen hiding things?
No.
No.
Of course.
I have 4 successes.
Okay.
Wait a minute. I'm
Okay.
also doing it.
Holy shit.
The world has a 9 and a 10. And 2 6s, depending on difficulty.
No, you're fine. You see him kind of shift in his chair until he kind of till he speaks down in the places below. Much of the catacombs have been crumbled, perhaps forcibly. By what? Who can truly say? And as he says that, your perception, your successes show you he's not lying when he says that. It is fairly, as both of you clearly saw within the parts that you all explored, the catacombs and such, far older than the sewers, and were at many places looking as if they could crumble at any moment. So they've been there a very long time. Perhaps probably closer to maybe like the first part of the city.
So, yeah, and that's like, and I told you, so, like, that's very, very old, potentially.
Yes. He kind of continues and he goes, but there was something unusual, perhaps found in a part of the catacombs.
Why, I suppose that there are many ways that it can be unusual. Well, depending on clan and age, of course.
Unusual because of a particular. He kind of thinks for a moment. A particular image. You understand the story of Gilgamesh, correct?
Madeline would probably, but I might not remember. Is that... hold on. Da, 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 da. the Babylonian. Yeah, got it.
Okay.
Sumerian god, right?
Yeah. And he goes, in one of the in parts of the story, there is a wild man known as Enkidu, a man raised by beasts and ignorant of humanity until he is taken to bed by Shamhat, a sacred temple prostitute. And it is only through her embrace does Enkidu become human and thus civilized. And you see him get up from his seat, and he speaks angrily to one of the people that's within the room. Like the music and stuff has been going on since you've been talking, and they quickly bring him basically what looks to be a piece of parchment with charcoal, and he begins kind of drawing something. I need to find the image that I want to use, but it kind of it doesn't take him too long to do, obviously. But you see a person who is incredibly he looks like a wild man, kind of furred, the way that his hair kind of permeates and kind of moves across his body. It certainly looks like a wild man. And you see a woman and what you notice about the woman is that while she's obviously naked, fairly obviously, what you notice about her is that there's a symbol, like a crown. A crown is placed upon her, kind of over her head, if you will. And I'm trying to find the.
I don't know if you've turned on Minicam, but because it doesn't look like it. Just saying.
Unfortunately, I don't have Minicam on this computer.
Okay, fair enough. Never mind.
But I think I found the picture. No, that's not it. I'll describe it for you, and I'll get it for you. It is a crescent moon, and kind of below it, it looks to be a cross. So a crescent moon, and then a cross under it.
Madeline is quite interested in this. She's looking over this and just. So, where did you find this? In the older parts?
Yes, in the very old parts.
Mm.
And he goes, as he continues, I found the picture. And I will, if it will let me, I don't know if it will, but we will see. And kind of continuing on with it, he goes, in that place that I found the unusual symbol, there was a feeling, a deep feeling. It is a feeling I have not felt for many years. Not since my own embrace. It felt like a place torn between cold and heat of love, lust, and suffering all rolled into one.
Thorvald immediately. Well, when Ali says that, Thorvald looks at Madeline. He gives them one of those looks that says, "Now I know you're going to want to find this place."
Yeah, Madeline is just looking as he says this. Madeline is just looking at the primogen, and I'm gonna do a thing. And yeah, I have the difficulty is so that would be 2, 3. I'm looking at the primogen, or she just looks at the primogen as he's saying this.
Hmm.
Is there like does this appear to be dishonest? That is essentially what Madeline is looking for.
No, he's actually being, as you can see, the symbol does not want to come up on this thing. Stupid thing. Anyway,
Well,
I will show you the. I will get you guys the symbol, so don't worry. Again, he says, as he kind of continues, you must think that I am lying to you. Perhaps, but it was a very powerful symbol. An old and ancient one.
but I assume by your words as to how deep this place is.
Very deep. Deeper than perhaps even I have not gone. It was a very dark place, as if something still lived within. Perhaps it is why the ones before me and my clans, me and my clanmates have come. And he is, of course, referencing the Nosferatu that were there before my Nosferatu. You get the gist.
Mm.
Mm.
Thorvald says we must be cautious on interfering with these powerful entities. Perhaps some ritual or unknown spell of some kind was used in this place.
Perhaps. It was one of the reasons Atros the monk was here. But even he could not penetrate its shadowy darkness. And his demise, perhaps, was because of it.
Well, I do tend to think of myself as quite comfortable in shadowy darknesses.
Out of character, I smell barley. In character, I know nothing. Thorwald, however, looks a bit cautious. He does. He knows that Madeline's curiosity will get the better of her, and no doubt he's not going to let her travel alone in this venture. But he does sort of look at her cautiously.
If I would see to this place, if I was to traverse your domain to get to this place, would that be possible?
He thinks it is possible, yes. But do you have adequate protection? Is the true question.
I will not be going alone. She looks at Torvald and she will just say, Torvald, and at least someone else will come with us.
He nods and he says, very well. I will guide you down to this place so that you may look upon the symbol. But I warn you, its darkness is quite potent. I hear at times where I am close to that place, I can hear screams and wailing. But it is not a human wailing. It is far more. And he kind of thinks, he goes, far more earthen than that.
Mm. Well, I thank you very much for this offer. Of course, I will have to take some time to prepare. You understand, of course.
Yes, thankfully, the darkness of that place does not move to encompass. Rather, it looks as if it guards a place. Perhaps it is even more ancient than even the kindred before the city. Who can truly say?
Oh, I would very much like to see it, regardless. But do not misunderstand me. I would also like to at least talk of one other thing. You know of the prince's demise.
Yes, a tragedy of his demise. With it, and the loss of the sheriff, there is a great hole left in Edessa.
I know. It is most troubling.
Who knows what is to become of the next few nights if we
Indeed.
are without.
I long. I long for the days that I knew that, well, security of this city were in safe hands. The days that your clanmate was sheriff.
Yes, Ivan, a
Yeah.
very, a very strong-hearted one, but he,
But also very powerful and very capable.
yes, very much so.
You are yourself, no?
Of course, if I was not, then why would I not be Primogen if I was not strong and cunning and clever?
Indeed not.
Why do
I
you
saw
think?
how you killed that, well, those two of those abominable, giant, well, monsters. Quite impressive.
Yes. And I remember the rose, not the one who was capable, the other, the one who came and pleaded for me. How she could not face against such fear. It will be very interesting to see if she survives under proper tutelage.
Who is he talking about?
Joanna,
You're talking about Johanna?
He Thorwald looks at
well, that remains to be seen.
proper tutor.
Well, I do wonder, with so much being unknown, I know that Nosferatu are in relative peace, but your clan is quite the voice when you speak loudly together, as you always do. But I wonder, Clan Nosferatu is looking for well, a bigger role in this city, with all of this turmoil about.
You would not want me to be Prince, little shadow.
No,
I would be far more cruel.
but I would like you to become Scourge. Quite a few people comes from out of town. Caitiffs are a problem, infernalists. Quite a few. A fairly tough man at that position could be very well.
Yes, that would be most interesting. The ravenous scourge.
Is very new, but his appointment to the position did not ward off the attack on the city and did not save the prince or the sheriff. And, well, Since the sheriff and the principal position is, well, what shall we say, up for debate, given the fact that the new prince could put in a new scourge, but oh well. Merely thoughts. Merely thoughts running on my head, of course.
Perhaps there is. He kind of shifts in his kind of cushion, and he goes, "You, Madeleine, do you know the name Al-Khatib Al-Hube?"
I cannot say that I do.
He is an imam, a holy man, but a political one. His child, Azir, is the primogen here. Who is to say that the Bruja will not attempt to place one of their own there? They are a hungry clan, after all.
And have been relatively uninvolved in recent developments.
Yes. And he looks at Thorvald, and he goes, he kind of says, Madeleine, if you could do me a great honor, I wish to give something to the gangrel.
Oh well, as long as it is in lives up to my taste of, and I am kidding, of course. Please, if Towa will bring it, which I am sure he will, is it a message or is it only for his eyes?
It is only for him to know.
Very
What
well.
he wishes to do with it is of his own concern.
Quite so. Well, he gets up and curtsies very well. Well, I will not take more of your time. I will be outside. And she bows and takes her leave.
Someone watches after her goes and turns back to the primogen.
And he smiles at you and he says, "You are a very strong gangrel. Of that I knew when I saw you and Erden fight. But your other Julia was not there."
No.
Would you like to hear something very interesting then that I have found involving her? Perhaps it will make a very interesting talking point to your primogen.
Thorwald nods.
Lady Julia was seen near the domain of the Samitsi, where she met one of them. And he smiles very widely, and you can see his horrible teeth. And he says, "She gave of her blood to the fiend.
Troubling. Is this the word?
Yes, but even more interesting than that, the fiend did the same. I wonder. I wonder what Isamitsu would do with, and he thinks, with one of your disciplines. And what a gangrel could do, too. Speed that. Speak it to your primogen and tell him that Aliabawa wishes to speak with him on a very important matter. A matter that will decide many a person's fate.
I will send you a message.
Good. Very good.
And perhaps one day you and I can spar in friendly contest. I imagine a man of your prowess has many things to teach me.
Yes. You have much to learn of the weapons, but it is not always the blade that is the most dangerous. Keep that in mind. Now, you may go. Take the shadow, and what you two do with your night, I do not care.
I'm not laughing in character. Thorwald bows, and he will leave.
Very, very good. And you two are now very quickly, almost too quickly, you are back within the outside of the building, and the armed guards are again moving, basically moving about and basically kind of wanting you to move along, as one does.
They do.
Yeah, they do. Once they're clear of the fortress or whatever we want to call it, Thorwald looks up at the moon, and he says, "A wild man, more beast, tamed and civilized by the touch and love of a beautiful priestess.
It sounds like an inviting place. I know.
Sounds like a familiar story." He looks at her.
Which is why I was somewhat suspecting a very good imagination within the head of the primogen. But it seemed to be not distrustful. He seemed to be telling the truth, as far as I could tell. Which is a little more concerning. It still seems a little suspicious. But I would hate, if someone has laid a trap, I would hate to disappoint them.
He gave me more troubling news.
Oh?
He lowers his voice, making sure that they are in a quiet area of the city. Lady Julia has been seen sharing blood with Clan Zamisi.
Well, that is news indeed.
There's concern that they may be sharing disciplines.
There most likely could be, but I believe this is a concern for your primogen. And perhaps the Dmitzi primogen.
Well, I will speak to my primogen of it. I've been asked to deliver the message, but
Do so.
it concerns me because of the grudge she bears you.
Well, if I should be so lucky, she will teach me a lesson. She just smiles at that. She says, I do believe you should go. Tell your primogen tonight. I will be at home. I will wait for you.
He has this some slightly exasperated look on his face. But he nods. I will see you at home.
She sees him off, smiles as he goes to his meeting, and with that, I believe the scene will come to a close. Thank you very much, players for playing, ST for ST, and watchers for watching. Good night.